Life as You Own It with Mark McDougall and Craig Miller.
Remember, you got questions, we've got answers. You may not take the time to educate yourself about the single largest investment and opportunity you have, that investment in the roof over your head in real estate.
We talk about your home, financing, making investments in real estate. We give you the facts, folks.
You know, it's just good old-fashioned horse sense that we like to talk about. And we also throw in some other horse stuff, too, just for fun.
Life is Your Own It. I'm Mark McDougall, and he is Craig Miller, and we hope you're having a fantastic weekend. If you're checking us out for the first time, welcome aboard. You're in for an hour of fun and education. We hope that you visit us again and again and again. And remember, you can check us out at lifeisyouownit.com. You can also you can podcast the show. You can watch us on YouTube. Right now, this is being recorded, video recorded, so you can check it out and see the hand gestures that Craig makes at me, and in turn the gesture I give him back. So, folks,
if you're a regular listener, I'm wearing a black shirt today. Just to get that
I moved on from that. You know, there's nothing. It's only when you're wearing those colors that
it's a black
maybe
shirt.
Are a little more
with my drinks
out of the box that I like to discuss. Folks, the roof over your head. Well, you know, it's protecting you from the rain and the elements and all those things, but we consider it an opportunity to either make sure your financial house is in order and be savvy, not just protect yourself, but get ahead in this game of life. So we give you the latest and greatest tips, how to be a more savvy consumer, how to be a better friend, a better business partner,
how to be better looking,
all those things. How to get a better deal on your insurance, how to make sure you're protected, how to get your house in order so that if you leave this earth, your estate, your affairs are in order. So much that we come at you each and every weekend, and we encourage you to reach out to us. You can call us at 800-270-6425 if you have show suggestions, subjects you want to hear, or if you've got a should you stay or should you go scenario. That's where you email us or call us with your real life situation. If it's a rental situation you're thinking of buying, we just need to know, what are you paying in rent? How many, what do you think that would equate to in the form of a house payment? Tell us whatever your situation may be. We'll give you a quick, straightforward answer, and I'm sure that your fellow listening audience will benefit from that situation, from hearing what we have to tell them. Craig, did you have a good week?
I did have a good week, and it's going to be a great end of the week as we do this show, because I think we're bringing some good information that people are going to, I think these are relevant issues, things that people are thinking about, going through right now. So what are we going to talk about?
All right, well, it is the middle of summer. All-Star break was last week, and with the housing market being what it is, we think sellers are in a position to consider playing hardball. If you've got the guts, we've got some ideas for you. So later in the hour, you're a seller, you want to play some hardball, you want to get top dollar for your home, we've got some suggestions for you. The downside of low rates, Craig, what is it?
Well, it might slow down home selling.
That is poppycock. That is poppycock.
Oh, poppycock. At least it's poppycock.
No.
I was like, it's called poppycock.
It's poppycock. That's silliness. Craig is going to say why he thinks it's just silliness, and I'm going to tell you why. Maybe it makes sense that some people are choosing not to buy a new home and instead sitting on the sidelines because of those low rates. If you can't catch a break, maybe you should listen to our show every weekend. We'll show you how to create your own. But if you're the stubborn sort, we'll share some tips on how you can go broke. That's right. We're going to share how you can go broke. If your mission is to go broke, you're not going to take the steps necessary to keep your financial house in order, then we will help you. We've got some great suggestions for you that want to hit the poorhouse. And finally, what do you need to do before the moving company arrives? Well, we've got
packing is always good.
Got packing, that's one thing. We've got something that often is overlooked that's going to ensure if you pack, well, we'll just tell you later what happens. And finally, 5 home purchase missteps that your lender or realtor probably won't tell you. Not because they don't want to take care of you, not because they don't love you, but they just may forget. We're going to share those with you. Okay, Craig?
Let's talk about what we always talk about every week, and that's interest rates. We do share that with you every single week on the show, give you the national averages. We let you know where rates were the week before, this past week. And in fact, this week I'm going to share with you where rates have been for the past 5 weeks. I'm going to tell you what the low in the last 5 or 6 weeks has been, and then where we are today.
Why stop there? Why don't we go the last 5 years? Every
Okay,
week
you
for
know
the
what
last
I'm
5
going
years.
to. For
You
the
know,
next
there would
12
be
minutes,
some
strap
good.
yourself in.
You know, maybe, but that's a suggestion for maybe next weekend show. You can kind of talk where interest rates have historically trended. For the younger set that's buying their first home may not know that rates, heaven forbid, were above 5 at one point.
Yeah.
May have been above 6, maybe above 7. You know, so we'll give you a little historical perspective on where rates have been and maybe a little other data associated with that. But I think it's good for those of you in the market right now to know where they are now and where they've been trending. So
One thing, folks, you're also going to hear some fun little music play at different times during the show. Should you stay or should you go, a segment that we share with you every single week. That's going to come up. We've got a few of those. 800-270-6425, 1-800-270-6425. Write it down. That's the number you need to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you need information, a question answered, you're in the middle of a loan transaction or anything, and you want to make sure that you are not screwing up or that you've got the advice you need, we're your source for that. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that stuff, as Mark mentioned earlier. All right, let's do the rates. All right, so I'm going to give you the national average where they are now, where they were over this past week we just completed, and then I'm going to share with you the low that we've seen in the last, say, 5 or 6 weeks. National average, of course, as usual, it's always based on a $200,000 loan amount, perfect credit, 20% equity or more. Obviously, variances there can affect the interest rate you would get quoted. And again, these aren't the exact rates. These are the general average that we see nationwide. You may get quoted a higher rate, but lower closing costs than what people are paying on average nationwide. Or you get quoted a lower rate, but you're paying more in fees. The fees are just as important as the rate. That's why you need to go to lifeasyouownit.com. lifeasyouownit.com. Go there right now. Do it, even if you're driving. Just kidding. Don't. But check out the break-even formula. The break-even formula will tell you how to do the math to know, is it the cost versus the rate? Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Do I pay less cost, more cost, higher rate, lower rate? There's a balance in there, folks. It's what saves you the most money that matters. All right, so 30-year fixed rates over this past week have averaged 4.26%. That's versus 4.24 the week before. Relatively flat. That's not enough movement that you'd notice a difference in the quote you would receive from a lender. 15-year fixed, 3.33 versus 3.31. 5-year ARMs, of course, that's again, your rate's fixed for 5 years, adjustable after that. It's amortized like a 30-year loan. 3.65 versus 3.69, so slight improvement on an ARM. FHA 30-year fixed, 3.99 versus 3.82. That's the biggest move we've seen among all the different loan types. FHA fixed rates move the most. There's many other loan options out there, folks. We don't always cover them. These are the general ones we cover because these are the most common loan products. There's 20-year fixed rate loans. There's 3-year ARMs. There's 7-year ARMs. There's FHA ARMs and fixed and VA loans and rural development loans and everything else under the sun. But we cover this stuff that gives you a general idea of trending and average rates. Now, what's the best rate you could have potentially locked in at? Or I won't say the best rate. Let me just back up. What's the average, the best weekly average that we've seen for the past, say, month and a half? Well, I keep track of this stuff, and then I usually chuck it after about a month. I'm just getting ready to throw away my sheet here. 4.18 average on a 30-year fix versus what I just said today was 4.26. Not a huge difference there. What's the highest that we've seen in the past? I think 4.31, 4.34, something like that. So rates have been trading in a really tight pattern. And that doesn't mean you should be complacent at all. In fact, I think that with the volatility in the market, and as much as we've seen the stock market move, rates could take off and jump up here in the next couple months. It could happen, or they may stay low. You need to take action based on mathematics and what makes sense and what's right for you to do. Don't assume rates are going to stay at these levels, though, for the rest of the year or into next year or whatever. If it makes sense to refinance now, do so. Just check out that break-even formula on lifeasyouownit.com. What's the music telling us?
All right, should you stay or should you go? Sherry in Paola, Kansas called to ask. I'm being told that there is a zero down payment loan for houses in my area. I want to purchase, but it seems too good to be true that I can buy a new house with no money down, but this is what my realtor is telling me. I've been planning on saving 5% for down payment plus 6 months reserves, as you guys teach on your show, but now I'm thinking if this is an option, I want to do it. What should I do? Well, folks, what you need to do is you need to stay tuned because we're going to give Sherry the answer when we return. Life as you own it. Hang out with us.
right, friends, we are back. Mark, sing us the lyrics of the song. Ooh, ooh. That was great, Mark.
Hey, thanks.
Awesome. Okay.
You know, actually, I can't quite hit that
You just
high
did.
level
You
like
just
you
did.
Right, nice try.
And that's not true, Mark.
That was
I
what was the
heard you
group
hit it
singing?
many times.
Who was that?
Fine Young Cannibals.
Fine Young Cannibals.
Fine FYC.
Yeah, it was that.
Fine Young Cannibals. That's right. Back in the
You had your
day.
members only jacket on, your tight rolled jeans, rolling in your buddy Z28.
That's
I've
right.
seen it
My
100
buddy
times.
Z28. You've seen it 100 times.
All right, so back to
You were on the passenger side on a few of those Z28s, I'm sure, back in the day.
T-tops were
Looking
off.
pretty.
I was a Mustang guy. I wasn't
Wearing a muscle shirt and jorts.
That's
Yeah.
right. I was.
That's right.
Mullet.
Yeah.
I didn't have any earrings or anything, but I had a mullet.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with Sherry and Paola, Kansas. We had a little should you stay or should you go scenario thrown at us
That's right.
before the break.
Sherry wanted to know: is there a 0 down payment loan for houses in her area? She's been saving, doing a good job, listening to the show, and putting aside the 5% for down payment and the 6 months reserves before she buys. But likes what she's hearing from a realtor about this 5% program. Craig, should she stay? Should she go? What should Sherry do?
You know, Sherry, your realtor is giving you accurate information. You said you're from Paola, Kansas. Paola, Kansas does have the USDA Rural Development Loans available. That's 100% financing. It's a government-funded program, government-guaranteed type loan, like an FHA loan, similar to. If it's right for you or not, that is a different story. What I would tell you is proceed with caution in speaking with a certified mortgage planner to get pre-approved for a USDA loan. There are some income restrictions and other things that you'll have to qualify for. And if you do indeed qualify, really weigh your options. Make sure the mortgage planner tells you, yes, this is what it looks like if you go now and do this loan here, or if you did save up 3 or 5% down or whatever, here's the other type of loan programs you could do. If you can save up your 5% down and do a conventional loan, it will save you more money. If you have your reserves in place, we definitely recommend that. If you're putting no money down and you don't have any reserves,
Don't do it.
I say stay and don't
Right.
do anything. But if you've got your reserves built up and you just haven't reached your down payment money and the terms of the loan make sense and it's the right time for you to buy, only you can make that decision. But how do you make a decision like that? It has to be a well-informed decision. And how do you get well-informed? You work with an expert, preferably a realtor that's an expert. You work with a mortgage planner that's an expert, and that's how you get well-informed, because you get all the facts laid out for you, and then you've made a decision based on facts, based on math, and now you've done something sound rather than just do something out of feeling or reaction or whatever to what someone tells you. So that's the advice. Long-winded answer for Sherry in Paola, Kansas, but that's a little thorn that many people are sitting on is, should I do this now or not? How do I know it's the right time? Those are some of the pieces of advice you need to consider.
All right.
What up
You
with
got you got all the interest rate information out, right?
I
Got it
did.
all
Let's
good
talk
there.
about baseball. I mean, hardball.
Let's talk about
Baseball.
hardball. Okay, so you've got. We've all heard. I think it's well documented. Talked about a lot that it is it's a seller's market. There's not enough inventory, which ultimately means we're seeing prices rise slightly, but we're just seeing the people that want to buy houses are continually saying, you know what, I can't find a house. So, in my world, if there's not a lot of inventory, then that means that, generally speaking, the seller is in a position of leverage. So, okay, sellers, here's some suggestions we've got for you. If you're ready to play hardball, here you go. Number one is if someone makes an offer and you want to counter at your list price, that's right. You're selling it for $200,000. They make an offer at $180,000, come back at $200,000. Say, here's my counter offer.
That's right.
If someone makes an offer and you don't like the offer, reject the offer. Don't counter and invite the buyer to resubmit. Just reject it altogether. Our realtors that are listening are going, wow, I don't know if I'd suggest that any of my clients do this. But folks, again, that's why we called it hardball, and we're not saying that it's for everybody, but these are some suggestions. And you may choose to use them.
Right.
No fault in any of these.
Well,
What's
you
the
know,
third one, Craig?
Well, for years I've actually given this advice to people, and one thing you can do is if you've got your home, first of all, your home has to be listed. Let's just lay this some groundwork out. You've got to have your home listed at a price that is suitable for the market. If you've got your home way overpriced, playing hardball is going to get you no sale. But if you're playing hardball because you know that you've done your research, you're working with a professional realtor who's done a good job of showing you the comparable properties and
Newer on the market.
Exactly. Then you say, hey, hold up a minute. Now, it hasn't been on the market long. We're sticking with our list price because we believe we've priced it to sell. If they're really interested in your home and they've done their shopping and research, they'll probably agree with you and buy the house. You can always concede by $1,000 or $2,000 maybe if you want to make them feel like they're winning, but never just drop a big chunk because they hit you with a low ball offer to start with. Okay, and so the next one up, you said you already covered reject the offer and just tell them to reconsider.
Yeah, don't counter. Just invite the buyer to resubmit.
There you go. Okay, the other option is hold off on all offers until a certain date. You know, say, hey, we're not taking any specific offer. The home's only been on the market for 2 weeks. We're holding off until such and such date until we've received all the offers.
Yep.
What's that going to do for you, Mark?
Possibly create a bidding war.
There you go.
Say on August 15th, we will review all submitted offers, and the best offer is the one that we will likely accept. So that way you've got people ideally submitting those offers, and you may get an over list offering. So
in fact, that's what does oftentimes happen when you employ this strategy. If you do have a great house in a great area, priced right, and the inventory's slim, someone says, oh man, they're not, let's just write a letter, let's tell them how bad we want the house, and let's go ahead and offer them $5,000 over list price and see if they'll take our offer now. I mean, you may find yourself getting a premium price for your home if you use this strategy. What else?
Okay, there's another. Say you get the offer, and it's an offer you're comfortable with. Possibly it's close, but they also, many times they're going to ask for some concessions in the form of buyer paid, that the seller will pay their closing costs up to a certain amount. Just seems standard in many markets to ask for that. So you can counteroffer with an increase to the amount. So if you think, oh well, they offered, we're asking 205, they offered 200. We're good with that offer, but only good if that's what we net, or if that's the price we get. So they wanted 2,000 in closing costs. Really, they're offering you 198. So come back and say that we'll pay the closing costs with a price of 202. That way you get the 200 that you were comfortable getting. So again, if they want you to pay closing costs, add it back on. If you're at 205, you want to sit tight there, and they've offered 205 and want closing costs, you believe that you can still get it. Just understand that if you increase the sales price, it's got to be supported in the appraised value. But that's a suggestion for those of you who want to play a little hardball.
And last piece before we get into the next should you stay or should you go scenario, I'll just say, this works on both sides of the table. If you are a buyer and you've got an opportunity to purchase a home and you feel like your offer's right, and they come back, you make a counter offer of a lower price and they come back much higher, just raise your price by $1,000 and see what happens and see if they think, oh man, they're serious, they're not coming up much, we better take this offer. So it works both ways, folks, but Hardball can save you some money.
That's right, and consult your real estate professional. Again, they're going to do what you tell them to do, but they should be giving you some good advice and some suggestions. And ultimately, they're the pros that are out there each and every day negotiating on your behalf.
There you go.
All right, Craig, what's that sound mean? Oh, it means it's time for another Should You Stay or Should You Go scenario. Albert in Bailey, Mississippi. Is that MS is Mississippi?
Yeah.
You put the state.
MISS,
you put the state
ISS,
on
IPPI.
That's right.
If you want to
I'm
spell it all
refinancing
out,
under the HARP program with a big lender that I found from a TV commercial. My balance is $113,000. My current rate is 5 3/4. The loan officer is giving me 4 1/4, but the closing costs are about $5,200. And this seems pretty high to me, especially after listening to your show. I asked for a zero-cost option, like you guys talk about, but they said they can't offer that on a HARP loan. Is this true? I've been dealing with him for 30 days, but should I go to another lender or stay with what I've got?
Albert, the answer is go. And I'm not saying you don't stick with this lender, but at least you go do some shopping. You don't indicate whether or not you shopped around or compared quotes when you got hooked up with this lender. It sounds to me like you responded due to marketing. You said a big lender you found on a TV commercial. I'm assuming you made the phone call while you were watching TV. Maybe you haven't done enough shopping around. The costs do seem high to me for your loan size. I'm sure that probably, or may at least include the escrow stuff. Maybe you're looking at that too. So I'm not sure about your taxes or insurance, if any of that's included in those numbers. If that's strictly closing costs and fees, it's definitely way too high. But the bottom line is it's not going to hurt you to shop around. And no, HARP does not exclude zero-cost loan options. You can do a zero-cost loan option on anything. I'm not sure what the margins are with this particular lender, so you need to take a look at and compare with other people.
All right, folks, when we come back, the downside of low rates, less homes are selling. Shocking, I know. Craig's going to tell you why he thinks this is just poppycock. I'm going to tell you why, you know what? I get it. I see why people aren't selling. Life as you own it.
Felt like we
Thought I
missed
was gonna say
something.
something else, didn't
Like, stay tuned, or
No,
I was going to, and then I was like, life as you own it, and I'm like,
You always have
4
time.
seconds.
You always have time.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you
Life as you own it.
If I'm doing this, you don't have time.
Bless you.
You know the next line of the song? It's "I'm going to owe you cheetah."
All right, it is. I've just found that out during the break. Did not know that prior to, so I'm excited about it. Just changed my day. Changed
All
something
right.
about my day.
Hey folks, if you're checking us out for the first time, we appreciate you listening in. Remember, you can catch us on YouTube. You can catch the video presentation of the show. You can also podcast the show. You can go to iTunes. You can go to iHeartRadio. You can demand that your local... Phil, I'm getting a little choked up here. You can demand that your local radio station start carrying Life as You Own It. All they got to do is reach out to us. They can go to lifeasyouownit.com. There's a wealth of information there to include highlights of the show, to include our growing affiliate list, and we just appreciate you checking us out, whether it's via podcast, via YouTube, or whatever. We appreciate you. We appreciate the feedback you give us. And remember, send us in your questions. Send us your scenarios, or if you just want some straightforward, candid advice, give us an email, lifeasyouownit.com. Questions at lifeasyouownit.com, or 800-270-6425. Okay, Craig. All right, so we're ready to talk about. We were talking about playing hardball on if you're negotiating a contract, if you're a seller.
Never talking about the downside of mortgage rates.
So interest rates. You gave the rates earlier in the show. They're in the low 4. They're staying in that range. What an attractive interest rate. If it makes sense for you to purchase a home now or to refinance, because you can save a few bucks. 4% effectively for most of you is going to put you at an effective rate of probably just under 2% or around 3% when you consider the deductibility of that interest. Wow.
I mean, just under 3 or 3%. You said
I
under
say
2. That'd be a great tax
Under-
deduction, 50%.
For those of you that own homes in Australia, if they eventually implement the mortgage interest deductibility, you'd be under 2%.
There you go.
Yeah, had to qualify that.
So yeah, here's the thing, folks. I mean, it's an interesting, potentially interesting paradigm shift here. Obviously, for the past 3-4 decades, if you were tracking interest rates on mortgages, you'd notice that, in general, taking it as a 5 or even 10-year average window of time, decade over decade, mortgage rates have typically trended lower, lower, lower. So when moving up in home or refinancing or whatever has come along, it's been at the benefit of a lower interest rate. Usually that's is an additional motivator for people that are looking at moving. They're like, wow, yeah, we're at 7.25. I know my first home loan, for example, was at 8.25, and then when I bought my next home, I think I got 7 or something. So that was a huge difference in rate over just a couple of years period of time when rates dipped down, and I was able to buy another home for not a whole lot more money, even though it was a more expensive house because my interest was so much lower. Well, that's typically what we've seen as a trend, and people have enjoyed that, and now that might be changing. So if you look at the average rates over the past few years, interest rates dipped down to a record level in the low 3s on a 30-year mortgage, November 2012. And then it took till about right at a year ago until they popped up over 4%. So for a good solid year almost, we had rates, and really probably a little bit longer than that, we had rates in the 3s on a 30-year mortgage. Now, what we just talked about, low 4s, people are looking at that and thinking to themselves, well, I'm at 3.25, I'm at 3 3/8, I'm at 3.5 on my 30-year mortgage, and we'd really like to move up in house, but I'm going to have to take a 0.75% or maybe a full percent higher interest rate to facilitate that move. So that's a huge additional expense on top of the fact that the house might cost more and the taxes are higher. I'm just going to be satisfied with what I've got and content and sit tight. I can't justify the additional expense. And that makes some financial sense. I get that.
Yeah.
And if that motivates other people if that motivates you to not take on maybe something that you normally would maybe be inclined to take on if you get the same or a lower interest rate, good for you. I do want to explain, though, that although this looks to be the case, and it may in fact have the effect of slowing down real estate sales on those who are locked in at those lower rates and they don't want to pay a higher rate to move, and they will sit tight. I absolutely think that will happen, but I want to share with you why it's not as big of a deal as you think, and maybe Mark can counter this argument. But what I want you to think about, folks, is that especially those of you who've owned a couple houses, 3-4 houses maybe, those of you who've been homeowners for 20 or 30 years and you've seen the movement in interest rates, raise your hand. Don't take both hands off the wheel if you're driving your car. Raise your hand if you've had a mortgage for 25 years. Raise your hand if you've had a mortgage for 20 years, 15 years. How about 10? Most of you, of course, because rates have trended lower, have refinanced or bought a different home, and you've probably had your mortgage on average for 3 to 5 years at the most.
Might be a different mortgage, but you've had
But
some
you've
form
had
of
some of-
loan on
Exactly.
leveraged on real estate.
Right.
Yep.
And you will probably continue that trend for as long as you're a homeowner in general, I would believe. Here's what I think. I think that you can look at it like this. I'm paying it a percent higher interest, and you take that into account. You got to figure in your tax efficiencies. But if you're really thinking long term, if you're buying a better home in a better school district, better area, better suits the needs of your family long term, maybe it's an overall better investment in that case, and it'll have a greater rate of return of appreciation for you. There's some offsetting principles there. And if the economy's doing better and interest rates rise, you're obviously going to be making a little bit more money as well. Usually, you should be. But you'll probably refinance again at some point at a lower interest rate. You won't keep that same mortgage. You're not going to keep that same loan for 15 years and be like, wow, if I would have stayed in the other house, I would have saved X amount of dollars over this one. There's so many things that mitigate that, primarily the appreciation factor. If we're talking about moving up in home, you're also going to gain more on that house over the next 10 or 15 years or whatever. So, although I do think this is going to impact you, for those of you who are trying to battle or doing battle with this psychological decision or this decision financially to move up and take a higher rate or not, I'll tell you that I firmly believe we will have another inflationary period or a recession type period between times of inflation, and rates will be lower than they were this past time at their lowest lows. And you'll be able to take advantage of those with a refinance if you've kept your finances in order. That's my thoughts, and Mark's going to give the counter argument potentially to that when we return.
I would like to, but conveniently you ran us just out of
on
time,
purpose.
folks.
Forget all about
Whenever we
whatever
come
Mark
back,
has to
we're going to talk about whether keeping that interest rate does make more sense for you and foregoing buying that new house for all the reasons that Craig said it might make sense. Life as you own it. Keep on hanging out with us.
All right, folks, we are back, Life as You Own It, and Mark gets a chance to talk now. I finally had a whole segment where I got to talk. And hold on
You
loosely.
did talk the
to
whole
that.
segment.
Just hold on loosely to that interest rate. Don't hold on too tightly, or you might lose control. Just
Well,
saying.
you are special, but you're no longer 38. All right, folks. So Craig was talking about the downside of those low interest rates has a lot of you staying in your home, and he was giving some good points as to why, maybe that just doesn't make sense for you. And I can't argue with those altogether, because the reality is each one of your situations is different, and the true cost, the reason you listen to this show is because we talk about boiling it all down. What is the real cost of home ownership? What is the real cost of you having a low credit score? What is the real cost of that interest rate that you're getting that sounds so attractive, but you may or may not be paying a bunch of fees to get that rate? So it's all about take an inventory of where you want to be, what you need to meet your needs, but making it a part of a strategy and a plan. So that's my long-winded way of saying I'm going to err on the side of conservative and say if you got a great rate, your cost is low. The chance of you financing this house and purchasing it and then at a higher rate that might be 1% higher and then refinancing it at a lower rate, I think it's a slim chance that you're going to get lower than a 4.25% rate in the next 10 years. And if you're in that house, it could happen, but I wouldn't count on it as a potential, as something that will happen in the future, because we've seen the historic low trend in rates has had a lot of participating events, to include a housing debacle, to include a significant rise in unemployment. All these factors have brought lending rates, and propped up by the government the ability to finance many of these homes at these lower rates. If it weren't for the existence of the programs and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac being in conservatorship that increased LTVs and all these things, to include HARP, HAMP, everything else, to finance people at these lower rates, the average interest rate would not be 3.3 of all homes mortgaged. 1/3 of homes, the average rate is
Under 4%.
Under 4%.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to guess something. I'm going to make a bold prediction.
make a bold one.
I'm going to make
bold
a
and
bold
spicy.
prediction that our government's current policies will be carried over the next time we face another recession, and I think they'll overshoot it from what they did this time, depending on who's in office and who's controlling the House and the Senate. I think that the next time we hit a major recession or even potentially a depression, that the government will say, hey, remember last time when we did that thing with interest rates and we bought a bunch of mortgage-backed security bonds and
it ended up working
it
pretty well.
Helped okay a little
Yeah.
bit. At least it kind of got us over the hump
Yeah.
or carried us through. Let's do that again.
Yep.
And that will cause interest rates to hit levels that we've never seen before. That's my bold prediction.
Possibility.
Let's see what happens.
But you may not be in that house because that ideally will be 10 or more years out before we.
September of next year is when that's going to happen. I'm just kidding. No. All right, so let's see what happens.
Okay.
All right.
Should you stay or should
There
you
it
go,
is
folks?
again.
All right, so we have, let's see, we've got Trent in Bella Vista, Arkansas, emailed, I would like to sell my home now that I'm retired, but I don't want to pay income taxes on the sale right now. I bought my home 25 years ago for just $135,000, but it looks like now I can sell it for over $300,000. Is there a way to avoid paying taxes now or to defer the taxes? I still have good income and already pay a lot in income taxes. Any advice you would use the word taxes numerous times there.
He doesn't like the word.
Now, okay, Craig, go. So it's should he sell now, or should he apparently stay?
Go.
And not
Sell it. We got good news for you. There's a few qualifiers here, Trent, but you can go ahead and sell that puppy. Guess why? Because if that's your primary residence and you've lived in it any 2 of the last 5 years, you haven't had enough appreciation to incur a taxable event. Unless you're single, you might have a small. You have a $250,000 exemption.
Do the math, son.
500.
130. It's $250 for
250.
single, $500 if you're file.
Oh, yeah,
if
so
you
he's fine.
if you file single.
He's only got a $165,000
Yeah.
gain,
Yeah.
Depending on other potential expenses that could be counted as acquisition
You got
indebtedness
it.
or improvement
Yeah.
costs. So really, you have no taxable event there, as long as it is your primary residence. Now, let's say you've been renting, because we don't know all the facts, and you've been renting it for a few years, or 5-6 years, and you haven't lived in it in the last 5 years for at least 2.
Yep.
Then you need to move back into it for a couple of years potentially if you don't want to pay taxes on that money, and then sell it.
There you
But
go.
at this point, it doesn't sound to me like you have a taxable situation.
And do the math on it too, because if you do the long-term gain income tax form calculation there versus moving back into it, it probably still will not make sense to move back in.
There you
either.
go. So, yep.
All right, good one. Good question. Folks, remember, lifeasyouownit.com or questions@lifeasyouownit.com. If you've got a scenario you'd like us to answer on air, happy to do it, okay? So we told you if the house you're in meets your needs, you don't need extra square footage. You don't need extra storage space. Live conservatively. Live within your means. Live within your budget. And I believe that when the time is right and your family is going to grow or you're going to make the financial decision to invest in a larger home, that it's one that has is met with a firm understanding of how this is going to enhance your future financial situation, not how it's going to potentially endanger it. All right, Craig. If you can't catch a break, maybe you should listen to the show every weekend because right now we're going to help you understand how you can go broke if that's what you're destined to do and determined to do.
Yeah, let's find out how to do
Some
that.
of you-
A lot
some of you
people are
can't
sitting there
catch a
thinking,
break.
Man, I've
You
been
say-
waiting to find out this
But
information.
boys, some of us go through life, and some of us maybe think, "Gosh, darn it, I'm just not lucky. Things don't bounce my way. It's just good stuff doesn't happen." And I'm hearing this, I'm going, "Oh, I should do that." Well, if you're not taking action on it, then things aren't going to bounce your way because the only way you can make things go your way is by directing them. So when we come back, we're going to share with you some things, and we say we're going to say it in jest because we want none of you to do this. But if you want to go broke, this is the way you're going to do it. When we come back, Life as You Want It. Stay tuned. All right, this is the final segment of this installment of Life as You Want It. Thanks for checking us out. We hope you've had fun. We hope you've learned something. And we got a lot of information to cover here in the last segment. So we're going to be
Lightning
talking
round.
really fast. Okay, we've got some of the ways that you can go broke. You're listening to the show because you're not going to go broke. But if you choose to, and this first one, Craig and I can't help. Focus on looking good. Craig has had a lot of work done, and he spends. It's not cheap. You can't look that good. Getting going to the discount laser, whatever.
I've had
Doctor.
it all. Rhinoplasty. Is that what it's called? Okay. We had
Yeah.
rhinoplasty,
All right.
other plasties,
Other
plasties.
Every plastic you have. All right,
I haven't
folks. So
had
one
any
of
of
them,
that.
we
I'm all
get it.
natural,
It's style over substance. Bottom line is, most of America's millionaires do not live like we would think a millionaire lives. They live within their means. They live below. Actually, they live below their means. So that's number one.
Yeah, it's one thing. Look good, be in shape, take care of your body, groom yourself, take care of the nice things that you do have, but don't try to have the latest and the greatest. That's what'll catch up to you.
Living paycheck to paycheck seems an obvious one, and some of us say, gosh, I just can't help but live paycheck to paycheck. But there's a survey that shows virtually everyone who lives above the poverty line has the ability to save $20 a week. Saving is a habit, and it's something that if you develop it at a young age, that it can become a part of your financial DNA. So you do have the ability to save regardless of how much money you make. And that $20, if you're living just above the poverty line, is a big chunk of money that will make a difference for you if and when you need it. People that play the lottery, what are your chances of winning the lottery?
Well,
Slim.
Slim chance.
So
Fair chance of getting hit by the lightning or vending machine.
According to the Wall Street Journal analysis, 95% of gamblers lose in the end. You got to know when to hold them. You want to fold them. You want to walk away, know when to run.
Yeah.
Buy on
Every
credit.
time you're sitting at the table,
Folks,
just throwing that last piece in. Go.
Every time enough count when buying on credit, folks. Don't get into the habit. Don't use those credit cards. If you pay cash and you're cognizant of and you're only spending what you have, and ideally not as much as you have, the chance of you wait for that income state, that credit card statement to get that shock are a lot less likely. And then the last one is, Craig, what? It's why we do the show.
Be a victim. You want to go broke, be a victim. The victim mentality involves blaming others for whatever goes wrong in your life. So, hey, you want to sit around saying, well, I didn't get this promotion to work because so-and-so nudged me out, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that, this happened, that happened. Folks, don't be a victim. Be a winner. Be a champion, and you'll do better in life.
It doesn't matter if it's your credit score. It doesn't matter what it is. If you do the homework and do the work, bad things happen to good people. We agree. But even some of the most devastating medical circumstances that people have undergone, they have come out
Stronger person.
a stronger person. It's amazing to see some of the people that have physical limitations that accomplish more than any of us could dream of.
Yep.
Attitude,
Attitude, baby.
One last little tip is if it's moving time, if you've negotiated the deal on the purchase of the home or the sale of the home and the purchase, and one of the things we've told you for insurance purposes you need to do is take inventory. Why take inventory? You're bringing a moving company in. Sure, they may be bonded and insured and all those things, but if you don't know you lost it until a year and a half later, you're good luck trying to settle up a claim with them. So just for insurance purposes and the combination effect of knowing what gets moved, what the position it's in, etc., take inventory of all your goods. Take pictures of them. Email those to yourself. And again, to revisit our show a couple months ago or a month ago, is make sure that inventory is utilized for insurance purposes, that it's updated, and you've got the stuff available in the event disaster strikes. You are prepared. So, Craig, that's all I got. That's all we have.
We had 5 things that we're going to just share with you next week. So what we'll do
We are.
next week, you're going to want to tune into the show, same time, same place, same Mark and Craig time.
Same bat station.
Same Mark and Craig place. Next week, though, we will share with you 5 home purchase missteps that your lender or realtor won't think to tell you. They'll just forget. It's not that they don't want to equip you. It's just easy stuff that slips through the cracks and then it bites you in the hiney. We're going to share those 5 things with you because it can make you.
Yeah, I'll give you one more. We'll even post those to the website prior to next week's show. We'll then go over it on air. So we're going to encourage you to go out there, get the advanced down low on what we're going to discuss on next weekend's show. And we appreciate you hanging out with us. We hope it was a fantastic hour for you because I know it was good for me.
It was good for me, too.
All right. Remember,
Stay
folks.
classy, everybody.